Hello there everyone. Today I've come out for another little wander and explore of a haunted location. It's a very well known one. If any of you are interested in haunted places, especially in the UK and especially in the East Anglia region, you will have probably heard of Borley Rectory. It's one of the most infamous hauntings in English history. Now the rectory itself burned down in the 1930s and was demolished in I think 1945. So the rectory itself isn't actually there, which was the main focus of the investigations and hauntings. There's a number of books written on the subject. It was a very controversial haunting. No one really knows for sure if it was haunted at all or whether events were blown out of proportion. It's all a very hotly debated topic, but interesting nonetheless. However, it's gained this reputation of being, you know, one of the most well-known haunted places in all of Essex and possibly all of the UK. Now, although the rectory was the main focus of the hauntings in the village, I'm not actually going to be doing an awful lot on the building itself in today's video. One, because it's not there anymore, and two, there's just too much to mention and too much to talk about in one short little video. However, I do plan on hopefully doing a bit more of an extended documentary on the history of the rectory in future. The purpose of today's visit is actually to have a look at the church and churchyard, which by its own rights has gained a bit of a reputation for paranormal activity in recent years. So I'm just approaching the village now, and as you can see, I've obviously not parked in the village simply because there's not really anywhere sensible to park, and two, a lot of the residents of the village aren't too fond of people coming and visiting. There's been a lot of vandalism over the years of the village, as well as the church and the churchyard itself. A lot of people come here late at night causing a nuisance, so understandably some people can get a bit, you know, unwelcoming of strange people coming into the village. So I've literally just arrived at the churchyard, and the first thing I'll say about the place is that despite its huge reputation and an enormous amount of people coming to visit here each year, churchyard itself isn't actually particularly haunted. I must have done around 50 investigations here in the last year. Sorry, the last 10 years. And very few of those times have I actually had anything happen. Whatever is going on here is very subtle. However, there have been a few interesting events that have taken place, not only of myself being here, but I know there was a BBC film crew that came in the 1970s and actually did an investigation inside the church itself. From what I remember, they left tape recorders inside and they recorded some very strange sounds, stuff being moved about and knocking sounds, as well as what sounds like a human sigh.
Before locking the machines in, we searched the building. This session proved to be the most exciting one, for we firmly believe we recorded the sound of a ghost stepping forward and opening something which sounds like a door. At first, we thought we'd recorded the sound of the chancel door being opened, so we investigated this possibility. But neither of these sounds in any way seems to match the ghostly one. Nothing in the vicinity of the altar that we could find could account for the strange recording. We were so intrigued by these events that we returned to the church the following Saturday and spent the entire night there. Now follows the most remarkable sound of all, for quite clearly the centre microphone picked up what obviously is a human sigh.
Today the church is for the most part locked up. I believe they do still do services here, but as far as I'm aware there's no key holder. You can't just ask to have a look inside the church. And again, the reason for that is because the amount of people that come here and vandalise the place, they've just had to really kind of lock it up. Which is a shame, it's very sad, and I never think churches or any site like this should be locked up and prevent people from visiting, but for the safety of the building itself, I think in very few instances like this, it is a necessary course of action. Now my first visit here was back in 2012 and we filmed an episode for our first ever series. Looking back on it, I don't think we particularly experienced an awful lot. At the time we thought we had a few things happen, but in all honesty, I say looking back on it, I don't think really anything much was going on. However, I continued to visit here throughout the subsequent years, and there were, like I say, a few times that there were some rather bizarre things that actually happened. Now, to give you a rundown of the general activity said to occur here, one of the most prominent ones is people hearing the sound of footsteps follow them up the pathway which leads to the church door. Now, they have in fairly recent years relaid all of that and given it sort of wheelchair access. Before it was like just little paving slabs, which gave it quite a unique little look to it. But I'll say they've repaved that and given you wheelchair access now, so it does look a little bit different. Whether these ghostly footsteps still occur, I don't know. I've never heard them myself, but just visually the front of the church does have an extremely unique look. The actual conifer hedges, I believe they're conifers, correct me if I'm wrong, but they used to be all cut into chess piece shapes at the turn of the century. Obviously they've overgrown a lot since then. They are still kept on top of, but the actual chess shapes have completely disappeared now. They're more just like, I don't know, blobs, but they're still very unique looking, and you know, it's instantly recognisable whenever you approach the place. Now, despite the fact I said I never actually heard the phantom footsteps approaching the church, there was one instance I had here. I think it must have been about 6 years ago, around about 2015, 2016. Came here with a friend of mine just for the evening, just for a little look around, and I saw what appeared to be a ball of misty white substance. It looked very much like the dandelion seeds, but much bigger, like a big clump. And I was standing up that part of the church there and looking down this way, and I saw it just hovering above the path, probably, I don't know, about just above waist height, and it moved towards the side.
But yeah, these are bushes, I guess. These bushes used to be chess pieces. Back in the olden days. What's that?
I just saw, like, no word of a lie, what looked like a little mist, like a little sort of cluster or something that flew over here, ducked in behind this hedge here, and then poked out a little bit. The only thing that was moving was this little branch here. It looks about that sort of size.
Oh,
Like a white.
like a white greyish.
It was very similar to what they're dandelion seeds.
Yeah, dandelions.
Yeah, it looked very similar to like the dandelion seed, but much bigger.
Yeah.
I saw it come out from here, duck in behind this hedge, and then poke out slightly, and then come back in. I thought this here was where I saw it go back. I thought this was the back of the hedge, but obviously the back of the hedge is here.
Yeah.
So, in order for that to go into the hedge and then come back out again, well, I'd have been out the. Yeah, that's what.
That's very eerie.
Second I turn my camera off, I see that. Typical. Now, there's a lot of reports, obviously, of people seeing dark shapes moving about, people getting touched by things, all sorts of things like that, stuff you generally associate with any haunting. Because of the sheer amount of people that come here, a lot of them are coming out to scare themselves or for a laugh, so you can't really take a lot of these reports too seriously. But something people do mention is that the back of the church always feels a lot colder than the front, which I do have to agree with. However, for the majority of the year, the back of the church is in the shade. So that would explain that, you know, especially if you come here in the middle of summer, where there's a bigger contrast in the temperature difference. If you came here in the middle of summer and you know, one evening you was out the front, you thought it's nice hot weather, you know, it feels nice, and you walk around the back and it's cold, even though you can't see the difference in shade because obviously the light's gone, the front of the church will have been heating up during the day, and the back here will have stayed cool and in the shade. So that's the reason, I think, for this temperature change. However, a lot of people do think that the back of the church is the most active area. I don't know. I think I've had stuff happen all over, really. Like I say, very minor things, but I have had stuff happen all over, so I don't really buy into that completely. But so if you are coming for a visit at night, or you come to just with a couple of friends for a laugh and you're messing around, back of the church is obviously the furthest from the road. It's the furthest way for your exit point, so it's going to be the scariest, really, by all logical means. Another fairly well-known phenomena said to occur here is that of people smelling what they describe as rotting corpses. So it's a bit of a morbid one and a bit of a strange one. And I never really put any belief into it whatsoever. I thought it was again something that was just one of the legends that's grown up around here. I also thought maybe if there is any truth behind it, there's obviously farms nearby, and I wondered if maybe, there was smell of manure blowing over, or strange types of wood being burned, and people scaring themselves a little bit. However, it was one night in, I think it must have been 2019, came over here with Jason Duke and a friend of his, and we were in the churchyard and we were walking around taking a few photos. His friend had a camera with him, he's taking some photos, and all of a sudden this smell hit me, and it was so intense, it was so strong, and it smelled like death. I had to walk away from where this source was, and it was round near the back of the church actually, but it was so intense, and it nearly made me throw up how strong the smell was. It came out of nowhere and we all smelt it, and as his friend was snapping photographs, while that smell was there, all his photographs came out blurry. It was almost like a mist had engulfed around us. Now, we were filming at the time on a video camera, and none of this mist was visible. It wasn't like smoke had blown in from somewhere and we could smell the smell of the smoke or anything. It was only on the photographs this misty formation showed up, and just bang, just like that, it disappeared. The smell vanished, and we continued to take photos, and in the subsequent photos they were fine. There was no mist, there was no haze or anything. That was very strange, and again, you could put it down to something maybe like a badger or a fox has died in the ditch around the edge, and the wind changed and blew that scent into our area. I highly doubt that, because it was so intense. It wasn't just a little waft of something smelly, it was very, very strong. That's probably the most intense thing I've experienced here, but even then it's not inherently ghostly, is it? It's a strange event that I can't explain, but there's nothing really, other than the other previously mentioned stories of people experiencing the same thing. It's difficult to actually say what it could have been. Now, to be honest, this probably is a place I will return to in the future. I'm in no rush to, because like I say, the activity is very subtle and it doesn't occur very often, but it's worth popping back every now and again if I'm in the area, just to have a look and see if there is actually anything going on that particular night. But yeah, for the most part, it's the reason so many people visit here is because of the rectory. But as far as if you judge it just on the aspect of hauntings alone, there's not a lot going on in the churchyard. But this place has really got something about it in terms of classic ghost stories. I think that's why it's captivated so many imaginations. If you look into the case of the rectory, you've got a very imposing Victorian house. It looks like your classic haunted house. It's in a very remote Suffolk village. If you look into what actually occurred at the rectory, there's supposedly a phantom nun was seen. There was a phantom horse and cart with a headless coachman seen driving up the road. All sorts of poltergeist activity, writing on the walls. Apparently a human skull was found inside behind a cupboard in the rectory as well. There's all kinds of these, very captivating, very romanticised aspects that create ghost stories. And I think that's why this place has got the reputation it's got, and it's just attracted so many people. There was an extensive investigation done by Harry Price from the Society of Psychical Research, who rented the rectory itself in the, I think it was the early to mid 30s, and he carried out some investigations there. As I mentioned earlier, it's a hotly debated topic. Nobody knows for sure how much was fabricated, whether anything happened at all, but it doesn't seem to matter, and I think people are well aware of that there wasn't necessarily an awful lot going on at the rectory. But despite the fact people know that, they're still fascinated with it all. And I am as well. I'm one of those people that, you know, right from a young boy, this was one of the first places. So I had a ghost book that was like the A to Z of British ghosts. There was a picture of the rectory in the book, and I remember, you know, reading it while I was on holiday with my parents, and my dad said, oh yeah, I'd been there when I was younger. He said, we'll have to have a look over there at some point. Obviously then I got into investigating the paranormal when I came over here myself, but yeah, right from a young child it sort of captivated me. Something about it, very strange. So thank you for joining me today on my little trip out. I do always like coming here. As I mentioned, it's the story behind the place that adds the mystery and all of that. I love it. A classic ghost story is what we'll refer to this place as. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say on this video. It's just somewhere that's obviously well known, somewhere I've investigated a few times. I know a fair bit about the place. So I just thought it'd be nice to take a trip out and just show you guys, share some of my experiences there with you. But if there is anywhere else you'd like me to take a trip to, as I have done today, you know, go out with a camera, maybe it's somewhere that's near you, maybe it's somewhere that you've heard of being haunted, or maybe just somewhere interesting that you fancy seeing what my viewpoints are on it, and seeing what I think if I visit there. So like I say, if there's anywhere you think I should check out, let me know. But that's all from me today. So I hope you've enjoyed this. We are actually heading out to film for our new series next week, so I can't wait for that. I'm actually filming this at the end of March now, so we're not allowed to meet 6 people outside until I think must be next week. We're not allowed to meet 6 people outside, so we haven't been able to get together with a group of 3 of us since before Christmas. So I can't wait for that. We're going to Baconsthorpe Castle, so you can expect to see that out. Hoping late 2021, maybe early 22. So we're hoping to release our 7th series. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.